Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, staring at the message that had just arrived. The coffee in her cup had gone cold an hour ago, but she hadn't noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the screen showing the impossible transmission that had somehow traveled 1,200 light-years in less than a second. The message was short. Too short for the horror it described. The alien words translated into simple English that made her stomach turn. "Help us. They are eating our worlds. Our children are dying. Please, anyone who can hear this, help us." Chen had been in charge of Earth's fleet for 15 years. She had seen wars between star systems. She had watched planets burn. But something about this message was different. The desperation in those alien voices cut through space itself to reach them. "Admiral," said Commander Torres, her second in command, "the science team says this message is impossible. No known technology can send signals this far this fast. The physics don't work." Chen nodded slowly. She knew Torres was right. Faster than light communication existed, but it took weeks to cross such distances. This message had arrived instantly, breaking every law of space travel they knew. Whatever sent it was using technology far beyond anything humans had ever seen. "Show me the images again," Chen said. The screen changed to display grainy pictures that had come with the message. Chen watched as massive ships, each one the size of a small moon, moved through space toward a blue and green planet. The ships looked wrong somehow. They were not built from metal and circuits like human vessels. Instead, they seemed to be alive, with skin-like surfaces that pulsed and moved. Long tentacles reached out from them, touching the planet below. As Chen watched, the tentacles began to glow. Where they touched the planet's surface, the land simply disappeared. Not destroyed by weapons or blown apart by bombs. It just vanished as if it had never existed at all. The planet grew smaller and smaller as these creatures fed on it like some cosmic parasite. The next image showed refugee ships trying to escape. Small vessels packed with civilians fled from their dying world. The feeding ships noticed them and extended smaller tentacles in their direction. The refugee ships began to dissolve, their hulls melting away like ice in hot water. Chen could see the faces of the aliens inside, pressed against windows that were slowly disappearing around them. "My God," whispered Torres. "What are these things?" "Something that eats planets," Chen replied. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking with anger. "Something that feeds on entire civilizations." She turned to Lieutenant Jackson at the communication station. "Do we have any information about the Kepler 442 system?" Jackson's fingers flew across his keyboard. "Yes, Admiral. It's 1,200 light-years away in the Lyra constellation. Our deep space telescopes show 7 planets. 3 of them had signs of intelligent life when we last looked, about 50 years ago. The dominant species calls themselves Thylorians. They're peaceful traders known for their art and music." "We're peaceful," Chen corrected grimly. "Send a message to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them we need to talk." An hour later, Chen was in a video conference with the most powerful people on Earth. President Martinez looked tired. Secretary of Defense Williams looked skeptical. Fleet Admiral Zhang looked worried. They all looked at Chen like she had lost her mind. "Admiral Chen," President Martinez said carefully, "you're asking for permission to send our 3 most powerful warships across the galaxy to fight an unknown enemy. Ships that took 20 years to build, ships that protect Earth itself." "Yes, sir," Chen replied. "That's exactly what I'm asking. Based on one message," Secretary Williams added. "A message that might not even be real. For all we know, this could be a trap." Chen had expected this reaction. Earth's leadership was careful, always thinking about threats to humanity first. They had good reason to be cautious. Humans were still newcomers to the galaxy, with enemies who would love to see Earth's defenses weakened. "The message is real," Chen said. "Our best scientists have studied it for 6 hours. The quantum signatures are genuine. The technology that sent it is beyond anything we've seen, but the message itself is authentic." "That's not the point," Admiral Zhang said. "Even if it's real, we can't risk our best ships for aliens we've never met." "Earth comes first," Chen took a deep breath. She had served under Zhang for 10 years and respected him deeply. But she disagreed with him now. "Admiral, with respect, this isn't just about helping aliens. Look at those ships in the transmission. They consume entire planets. They eat civilizations. What happens when they finish with the Thylorians? What happens when they get hungry again?" The room fell silent as her words sank in. Chen continued. These creatures, whatever they won't stop with one system. They can't. They need to feed, and there are thousands of inhabited worlds between Kepler 442 and Earth. Eventually, they'll run out of other targets. You're talking about a preemptive strike, President Martinez said slowly. Starting a war with something we don't understand. No, sir, Chen replied. I'm talking about answering a call for help. I'm talking about doing what humans do when innocent people are dying, and we have the power to save them. She paused, then played the alien message again. The translated voices filled the room, begging for help that might never come. When it finished, the silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, President Martinez spoke. Admiral, if we do this, we're gambling with Earth's safety. Those 3 ships are our strongest defense. Mr. President, Chen said quietly. We built those ships to protect people. Not just humans, people. The Thylorians are people too. They have children who are dying while we debate. Secretary Williams leaned forward. And if this is a trap? If we send our best ships into an ambush? Chen met his eyes. Then at least we'll die knowing we tried to help someone who needed it. That's what separates us from the monsters. The debate continued for another 2 hours. Chen answered every question, addressed every concern. She showed them estimates of the enemy's power, plans for the long journey to Kepler 442, and tactical assessments of their chances. In the end, it came down to a simple vote. 3 people who would decide whether Earth's most powerful warships would cross the galaxy to answer a desperate plea for help. The vote was close, closer than Chen had hoped, but it was enough. Very well, Admiral, President Martinez said at last. You have permission to deploy the Ragnarok, the Wendigo, and the Cerberus. God help us all, Chen saluted. Thank you, sir. We won't let you down. As the conference ended, Chen looked out at the stars beyond Earth's defense station. Somewhere out there, 1,200 light-years away, an entire civilization was dying, but help was coming. Earth's deadliest warships were about to answer a call that had echoed across worlds. The Ragnarok was the largest warship humanity had ever built. From nose to tail, it stretched 3 kilometers of dark metal and deadly weapons. Its hull was thick enough to survive direct hits from nuclear missiles. Its main cannon could crack a moon in half. When other species saw it, they often asked why humans felt the need to build something so destructive. Captain Maria Volkov knew the answer. Humans built ships like the Ragnarok because sometimes the universe needed something so terrible that enemies would think twice before threatening innocent people. She stood on the bridge of her ship, watching as the other 2 vessels of their small fleet moved into formation beside them. The Wendigo looked different from her ship. Where the Ragnarok was built like a flying fortress, the Wendigo was sleek and black, designed to appear from nowhere and strike without warning. Its stealth systems could hide it from almost any sensor. The 3rd ship, the Cerberus, was built for one purpose: to fight battles that lasted for months or years. It carried enough weapons and supplies to wage war alone, and armor thick enough to survive anything short of a direct hit from a star. Its captain, Commander Sarah Kim, had once held off an entire pirate fleet for 6 months while protecting a colony ship. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system from her flagship, the Ragnarok. All ships prepare for jump to faster than light speed. Destination Kepler 442 system. Travel time 21 days, 21 days. Volkov had made longer journeys before, but never on a mission like this. They were traveling further from Earth than any human military force had ever gone, to fight an enemy they knew almost nothing about. Jump in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Commander Park, her navigation officer. All hands prepare for FTL transition. Volkov felt the familiar sensation as the ship's faster-than-light drive activated. Reality bent around them, and suddenly they were racing through space at impossible speeds, leaving Earth's solar system far behind. As they traveled, the 3 ships' crews worked together to study their enemy. Every piece of information from the alien message was analyzed over and over again. The ship's artificial intelligence systems ran countless simulations, trying to understand what they would face. Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, the Ragnarok's science officer, brought her findings to Captain Volkov on their 3rd day of travel. Hayes was young for such an important position, but she had the sharpest mind Volkov had ever encountered. Captain, I've been studying the images from the alien message, Hayes said, pulling up holographic displays in the ship's briefing room. I think I know what we're fighting. Volkov looked at the 3-dimensional images floating in the air. They showed the massive creatures that had been consuming the Thylorian worlds. Tell me, they're not machines, Captain. They're alive, biological organisms, but ones that have evolved or been modified to consume matter at the atomic level. When they touch something, they break it down into its basic components and absorb it. Hayes manipulated the display, zooming in on one of the creature's tentacles. See this? It's not just skin. It's millions of tiny mouths, each one capable of dissolving molecular bonds. They eat everything, rock, metal, organic matter, even the energy that holds atoms together. How do we kill something like that? Volkov asked. That's the problem, Captain. Conventional weapons might not work. When you shoot them, they could just absorb the energy from the explosions. Even nuclear weapons might just feed them more power. Volkov studied the images in silence for several minutes. Finally, she asked, "What about our special weapons? The gravity cannons? The stellar disruptors?" Hayes looked uncertain. Maybe. The gravity weapons might work because they manipulate space itself, not just matter and energy. As for the stellar disruptors, she paused. Captain, those weapons were designed to make stars explode. If we use them, we might save the Thylorians, but we'll also destroy their entire star system. Better than letting these things eat it, Volkov said grimly. Meanwhile, on the Wendigo, Captain Lisa Park was having a different conversation with her team. The Wendigo was designed for stealth and infiltration, which meant getting close to the enemy to study their weaknesses. From what we can see in the recordings, Park told her senior officers, these creatures are massive, but they're still biological. That means they have organs, nervous systems, maybe even a brain. If we can get inside one of them. Commander Rodriguez, her tactical officer, looked skeptical. Captain, those things dissolve everything they touch. How do we get inside without being eaten? Park smiled. It was not a nice smile. We use their own biology against them. Our stealth nanobots are designed to mimic whatever environment they're in. If we program them to mimic the creature's own cells, they should be able to move through its body without being detected. And then? Asked Dr. Singh, the ship's chief medical officer. Then we introduce them to some of humanity's nastier biological weapons. Viruses designed to attack cellular structures, bacteria that produce toxins. We turn their own consumption process into a weapon. On the Cerberus, Commander Kim was taking a more direct approach. Her ship was built for prolonged battles, which meant she was planning for a long fight. These creatures are big, she told her crew during their daily briefing. Bigger than our ships. Probably stronger too, but size isn't everything in a fight. She activated a tactical display showing theoretical battle scenarios. They're used to fighting defenseless prey. Planets can't shoot back. Civilian ships can't fight back. They've probably never faced something that was designed specifically to kill them. Chief Gunner Martinez raised his hand. Commander, what if our weapons don't penetrate their hide? Kim's expression was grim. Then we get creative. The Cerberus carries mining charges designed to crack asteroids. We carry industrial lasers that can cut through ship hulls. We have fusion bombs that can level cities. If our regular weapons don't work, we'll use everything else. And if that doesn't work? Asked Lieutenant Torres. Then we ram them, Kim said simply. The Cerberus weighs 4 million tons and can accelerate to 20% of light speed. At that velocity, we become a relativistic weapon. Nothing biological can survive a direct hit. As the days passed, the three ships' crews prepared for battle in their own ways. The Ragnarok's crew practiced coordinated attacks with their massive weapons. The Wendigo's team perfected their infiltration techniques. The Cerberus's crew ran endless drills on damage control and emergency repairs, but they also did something else. They studied the Thylorian message, learning about the people they were traveling so far to help. The Thylorians were artists and musicians, peaceful traders who had never developed powerful weapons. Their cities were built around gardens and concert halls, not fortresses and military bases. Ensign Maria Santos, a young officer on the Ragnarok, spent hours listening to Thylorian music that had been included with the distress message. The alien melodies were beautiful and sad, filled with hope and sorrow in equal measure. "Why do you listen to that?" asked her bunkmate Petty Officer Johnson. Santos didn't look up from her tablet. "Because these are the people we're going to save. I want to know who they are. I want to understand what we're fighting for." Johnson listened for a few minutes to the alien music. It was unlike anything humans had ever created, but somehow it touched something deep inside him. "They're worth saving," he said quietly. "Yes," Santos agreed. "They are." On the 15th day of their journey, Admiral Chen called a fleet-wide conference. Officers from all three ships appeared as holograms in the Ragnarok's main briefing room. "In 6 days, we'll arrive at the Kepler 442 system," Chen announced. "We don't know what we'll find there. The Thylorian civilization might already be gone. The creatures might have moved on to other systems, or we might arrive in the middle of an ongoing attack." She paused, looking at each of her officers. "I want everyone to understand what we're doing here. We're not just fighting to save alien lives, though that would be reason enough. We're fighting to send a message. We're telling the universe that there are some lines you don't cross, that there are some evils that will not be tolerated." Captain Volkov spoke up. "Admiral, what if we can't win? What if these creatures are too powerful?" Chen's expression was hard as steel. "Then we make sure our defeat costs them so much that they think twice before attacking another innocent civilization. We make them pay for every life they've taken. And if we do win?" asked Captain Park. For the first time in days, Chen smiled. "Then we show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens the innocent and humanity hears about it." The conference ended, and the officers returned to their ships. 6 days remained until they reached the Kepler 442 system. 6 days until they would face an enemy unlike anything they had ever fought. But they were ready. Earth's deadliest warships were carrying Earth's most determined warriors into battle. Whatever they found waiting for them, they would face it together. The hunt for the Planet Eaters was about to begin. When the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, the silence on every bridge was deafening. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. 2 planets were simply gone. Not destroyed, not broken apart, not reduced to asteroid fields. Gone. Empty space remained where worlds had once orbited their star. Admiral Chen stared at the sensor readings, trying to understand what she was seeing. "Sensors confirm, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Jackson. "Planets 4 and 6 are not present. No debris, no gravitational anomalies. It's as if they never existed." Captain Volkov's voice came through the communication system from the Ragnarok. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the remaining planets. Whatever did this, it's still here." Chen looked at the tactical display showing the 5 surviving worlds. 3 of them showed signs of ongoing destruction. Vast sections of their surfaces were missing, carved away in perfect spheres and spirals. The creatures were still feeding. "Take us in slowly," Chen ordered. "Passive sensors only. I want to know what we're dealing with before they know we're here." As the 3 human ships moved deeper into the system, the true scope of the devastation became clear. The innermost planet had been reduced to half its original size. Its oceans had been drained away, its continents carved into geometric patterns where the creatures had fed. Atmosphere leaked into space from the exposed planetary core. The second planet was in better condition, but massive ships moved across its surface like beetles on a corpse. Each ship was the size of a small moon, just as the alien message had shown. Their biomechanical tentacles reached down to the planet's surface, dissolving everything they touched. But it was the third planet that made Chen's heart sink. This was clearly where the Thylorians had made their final stand. The remains of their space stations orbited the world like broken jewelry. Thousands of small ships, civilian transports and cargo vessels, had been welded together into a makeshift fortress. "Admiral," called Dr. Hayes from her science station, "I'm detecting life signs from that orbital structure. Faint, but definitely there." "How many?" Chen asked. Hayes worked at her console for several minutes before answering. "Perhaps 200,000 signatures, maybe fewer." Chen closed her eyes. According to their intelligence files, the Thylorian civilization had numbered over 4 billion people across 3 worlds. Less than 200,000 survivors meant that more than 99% of their species had been consumed. "Open a channel to the Thylorian survivors," Chen ordered. "All frequencies." It took several attempts before they received a response. The alien voice that came through their speakers was tired and filled with despair. "Unknown vessels, this is first speaker Zenth-Ka of the Thylorian remnant. We do not know who you are, but if you have any compassion, please leave this system immediately. The Devourers will consume you as they have consumed us." Chen took a deep breath before responding. "First speaker, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. We're here to help." The silence that followed lasted so long that Chen wondered if the communication link had been broken. Finally, the alien voice returned, filled with disbelief. You came? Across the void you heard our call and came? Yes, Chen said simply. We came. But how? The distances. It should have taken years for our message to reach anyone. Chen looked at her science officer, who shrugged. They still didn't understand how the Thylorian message had reached Earth instantly. We don't know how your message reached us so quickly. But it did. And now we're here. First speaker Zenthka's voice broke with emotion. Admiral Chen of Earth, we are grateful beyond words. But you must understand. These creatures cannot be fought with conventional weapons. We tried to fight them when they first arrived. Our defense fleets were consumed in minutes. Their ships absorbed our weapons' energy and grew stronger. Tell us everything you know about them, Chen said. Over the next hour, the surviving Thylorians shared their painful knowledge. The creatures called themselves the Devourers, though whether this was their true name or just what they were called by their victims was unclear. They had appeared at the edge of the system 6 months ago, emerging from deep space with no warning. The Devourers were not just predators. They were something far worse. They consumed not just matter and energy, but information itself. When they destroyed something, it was as if that thing had never existed. They ate planets, stars, entire civilizations, leaving nothing behind but empty space. Their ships are not built, first speaker Zenthka explained. They are grown. Each ship is a living creature, evolved or engineered to consume entire worlds. They reproduce by dividing like single-celled organisms. The more they eat, the more of them there are. Captain Park's voice came through the communication channel from the Wendigo. How many ships are we looking at? In this system? Perhaps 30 of the large vessels. But Admiral, they have been sending smaller ships away every few days. Scout vessels, we believe, searching for new systems to consume. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. If these creatures were spreading across the galaxy, consuming one civilization after another, eventually they would find Earth. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was a fight for humanity's survival. First speaker, we need detailed scans of their ships, anything that might help us find a weakness. We will share everything we have, the alien replied. But Admiral, you must prepare yourself. We have been studying them for 6 months and we have found no weakness. They seem to adapt to every attack, growing stronger with each victory. The Thylorian data was transmitted to the human fleet, and the 3 ships' crews began analyzing it immediately. The Devourer ships were even more horrifying up close than they had appeared in the original message. They were clearly alive, with organs that pulsed beneath translucent skin. Neural networks spread through their bodies like glowing veins. Dr. Hayes brought her analysis to Admiral Chen within hours. Admiral, these things are like nothing we've ever encountered. They're not just biological. They're something beyond our understanding of biology. Their cells can reorganize themselves instantly, changing from skin to weapon to engine as needed. Any weaknesses? Chen asked, possibly. They seem to be controlled by a central nervous system, like a brain. If we could damage that, Hayes paused. But Admiral, their brains are located deep inside their bodies, protected by layers of adaptive armor. Getting to one would require going through the creature's entire body. Chen nodded grimly. That was a job for the Wendigo. On the stealth ship, Captain Park was already preparing her infiltration team. The plan was dangerous beyond words. Use their nanobots to penetrate a Devourer ship, locate its brain, and plant enough explosives to kill it from the inside. The nanobots will have to mimic the creature's own cells perfectly, Dr. Singh explained to the infiltration team. One mistake and they'll be detected and consumed before we can complete the mission. Sergeant Williams, the team's leader, checked his equipment one final time. Doc, how long do we have once we're inside? Unknown. These creatures seem to be able to sense threats to their core systems. You'll need to work fast. On the Cerberus, Commander Kim was taking a different approach. If they couldn't kill the Devourers with conventional weapons, maybe they could drive them away. Target their feeding tentacles, she ordered her gunners. If we can disrupt their ability to consume matter, maybe we can force them to retreat. Commander, asked Chief Martinez, what if they just grow new tentacles? Then we keep cutting them off, Kim replied grimly. These things may be able to regenerate, but regeneration takes energy. If we can force them to use more energy healing than they can consume feeding, we might be able to starve them. As the human fleet prepared for battle, First Speaker Zenthka contacted them one final time. Admiral Chen, there is something else you must know. The Devourers are not just consuming our worlds. They are consuming our history, our culture, our very memory. When they destroy something, it becomes as if it never was. Our art, our music, our literature. All of it is being erased from existence. The alien's voice grew stronger. But you have given us something we had lost. Hope. For the first time in months, we believe that some part of our civilization might survive. Whatever happens in the battle to come, know that you have already saved us in the ways that matter most. Admiral Chen looked out at the dying system, at the massive creatures that were slowly consuming everything the Thylorians had ever built. Anger filled her, cold and pure. These things didn't just kill. They erased. They made it as if their victims had never existed at all. All ships battle stations, she announced. We're going to show these creatures what happens when they threaten innocent people, and humanity finds out about it. The 3 deadliest warships Earth had ever built began moving toward their targets. The Devourers had never faced an enemy that fought back with such determination. They were about to learn why humans were feared across the galaxy. The battle for the Kepler 442 system was about to begin. The Devourers noticed the human fleet when they were still an hour away from the first planet. The massive bioships stopped their feeding and turned toward the approaching vessels. Tentacles that had been draining the life from worlds now reached toward the newcomers. Admiral Chen watched the enemy ships move. They were graceful in a horrible way, flowing through space like sea creatures swimming through water. Each one was the size of a small moon, covered in skin that pulsed with veins of light. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Jackson, "we're being scanned. The enemy ships are trying to analyze our hull composition and weapon systems." "Let them look," Chen replied coldly. "They're about to learn more about human weapons than they ever wanted to know." The first Devourer ship to approach them was smaller than the others, perhaps only the size of a large asteroid. It moved faster than its companions, racing toward the human fleet with obvious hunger. Chen could see its feeding tentacles extending, already reaching for her ships. "Ragnarok, you have the first target," Chen announced. Captain Volkov's voice came through the communication system. "Understood, Admiral. All guns target the approaching vessel. Fire when ready." The Ragnarok's main cannon was designed to crack planets. When it fired, the beam of concentrated energy could be seen from millions of kilometers away. The blast struck the Devourer ship directly in what appeared to be its center mass. For a moment, Chen thought the weapon had worked. The creature's skin blackened and cracked where the beam hit, but then something impossible happened. The damaged skin began to glow and the cracks sealed themselves. The creature had absorbed the energy from the attack and used it to heal itself. "Direct hit, no effect," reported Captain Volkov. "The target appears to have converted our weapon's energy into biological matter." Chen gritted her teeth. The Thylorians had warned them about this, but seeing it happen was still shocking. "Wendigo, you're up. Get inside that thing." The Wendigo vanished from sensors as its stealth systems activated. Captain Park guided her ship directly toward the Devourer vessel, using her ship's advanced cloaking to avoid detection. When she was close enough, she launched a swarm of nanobots programmed to mimic the creature's own cells. The tiny robots spread across the Devourer's skin, searching for any opening they could find. Most of the creature's surface was solid, but the nanobots eventually found what they were looking for: small pores that seemed to be breathing holes. "Nanobots are inside the target," Captain Park reported. "Beginning internal reconnaissance." The nanobots transmitted images as they moved through the creature's body. The interior was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Instead of organs arranged in a logical pattern, everything flowed together in a constantly changing maze of tissue and fluid. The creature's body was reorganizing itself even as they watched. "There," Dr. Singh pointed at one of the images, that cluster of neural tissue. "It has to be the brain." The nanobots moved toward the target, but they weren't alone. The creature's immune system had detected them and was sending antibodies to destroy the intruders. The nanobots had to fight their way through clouds of defensive cells while trying to reach their target. 60 seconds to target," reported Sergeant Williams from the Wendigo. "But the creature knows we're here. It's trying to crush the nanobots." Meanwhile, the Cerberus had engaged 2 more Devourer ships. Commander Kim's strategy was different from her companions. Instead of trying to destroy the creatures, she was trying to cripple them. "Target the feeding tentacles," Kim ordered. "Cut them off before they can regenerate." The Cerberus's weapons were not as powerful as the Ragnarok's main gun. but they were faster and more precise. Laser cannons swept across the Devourer ships, slicing through tentacles like a surgeon's knife. The severed appendages floated away in space, twitching as they died. The creatures shrieked, a sound that somehow transmitted through space itself. They had never felt pain like this before. For millions of years they had consumed without resistance. Now something was fighting back and it hurt. But the Devourers adapted quickly. New tentacles began growing to replace the ones that had been cut away. The fresh appendages were thicker and more heavily armored than the originals. "They're learning from our attacks," reported Chief Martinez. "Each new tentacle is harder to cut through." Kim smiled grimly. "Then we'll just have to cut faster than they can grow." The battle escalated as more Devourer ships converged on the human fleet. What had started as a fight against one creature became a swirling melee involving dozens of the massive bioships. The 3 human vessels found themselves surrounded, fighting for their lives against enemies that grew stronger with each attack. On the Wendigo, the nanobots finally reached their target. The Devourer's brain was a writhing mass of neural tissue the size of a building, pulsing with electrical activity. Sergeant Williams guided the nanobots as they attached their explosive charges to key nerve centers. "Charges placed," Williams reported, detonating in 10 seconds. The explosion inside the creature's brain was devastating. Neural pathways that had controlled the monster for centuries were severed in an instant. The Devourer ship stopped moving, its tentacles going limp as its nervous system collapsed. But the victory came at a cost. As the creature died, its body began to dissolve, releasing toxic chemicals into space. The nanobots were destroyed, and the Wendigo had to retreat quickly to avoid being caught in the creature's death throes. "One down," Captain Park announced. "But Admiral, that was just a small one. The larger ships will be much harder to infiltrate." Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display. They had killed 1 Devourer, but more than 20 remained. The creatures were now fully alert and adapting their tactics. Some were growing thicker armor, others were developing new types of weapons. The battle was far from over. "Ragnarok, try the gravity weapons," Chen ordered. Captain Volkov nodded. "Activating gravitational field manipulators." The Ragnarok's gravity cannons were experimental weapons that could create small black holes in space. When they fired, reality bent around their targets. 3 Devourer ships found themselves caught in artificial gravity wells that crushed them like bugs. Unlike energy weapons, the gravity cannons couldn't be absorbed or converted. The creature's biological system simply couldn't cope with forces that twisted space itself. They were flattened into dense spheres of compressed matter in seconds. "Gravity weapons are effective," Volkov reported with satisfaction, continuing bombardment. But the Devourers learned from this attack too. The remaining creatures began moving in unpredictable patterns, making it harder for the gravity cannons to target them. They also started attacking in coordinated groups, using their numbers to overwhelm the human ship's defenses. The Cerberus found itself surrounded by 6 Devourer vessels, their tentacles reaching out from every direction. Commander Kim ordered her ship to spin rapidly, using its momentum to avoid the grasping appendages while her gunners fired in all directions. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Lieutenant Torres. "One of their tentacles got through our armor." Kim felt the deck shake as the creature began trying to feed on her ship. "Emergency response team to Deck 7. Use the acid dispensers to dissolve that tentacle before it reaches the crew quarters." The battle raged for hours. The humans fought with a desperation born of righteous anger, while the Devourers attacked with the hunger of creatures that had never known defeat. Ships collided in space, weapons fired at point-blank range, and the void between planets filled with debris from both sides. But slowly, the tide began to turn. The human ships were damaged but intact, while more and more Devourer vessels were being destroyed. The creature's ability to adapt wasn't infinite, and the humans kept finding new ways to kill them. The end came suddenly. Captain Volkov, her ship badly damaged and her crew exhausted, made a decision that would be remembered for generations. As the largest Devourer ship approached the Ragnarok, preparing to consume it completely, she ordered her crew to abandon ship. "All hands, evacuate to escape pods," she announced. "Get to the other ships." "That's an order." "Captain, what are you doing?" Admiral Chen demanded. Volkov smiled as she watched her crew flee to safety. "I'm showing these things what humans do when someone threatens innocent people." She set the Ragnarok on a collision course with the massive Devourer ship and activated the stellar disruption weapon. The device was designed to cause stars to explode, but at close range it would have the same effect on any target. The Ragnarok struck the Devourer ship at 20% of light speed. The impact alone would have destroyed both vessels, but the stellar disruptor made the explosion visible from other star systems. The blast created a miniature sun that burned for several minutes before fading away. When the light cleared, both ships were gone. So were the 5 Devourer vessels that had been nearby. The explosion had consumed everything within 1,000,000 kilometers. The remaining Devourers, faced with destruction they couldn't absorb or adapt to, began to retreat. For the first time in their species' history, they were afraid. These strange newcomers didn't just fight back, they fought with a fury that defied understanding. As the last Devourer ship fled the system, Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the Thylorian survivors. First speaker Zenthka, this is Admiral Chen. Admiral Chen stood in what had once been the command center of the Ragnarok, now hastily converted into a temporary headquarters aboard the Cerberus. Through the viewing ports, she could see the survivors working together to build something that had never existed before: hope. The Thylorians had emerged from their makeshift fortress, no longer hiding but beginning to rebuild. Their small ships moved through space, collecting resources from the damaged planets. They would never be able to restore their worlds completely, but they were alive, and that was what mattered. Dr. Hayes approached with a data tablet in her hands. Admiral, we finished analyzing the Devourer biotechnology we recovered from the battle. The results are concerning. Chen looked up from the report she had been writing, letters to the families of the crew members who had died with Captain Volkov, explaining how their loved ones had saved an entire civilization. What did you find? These creatures aren't from this galaxy, Admiral. The quantum signatures in their cells match nothing in our databases. They're refugees from somewhere else, something that drove them out of their original home. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying there's something out there worse than the Devourers? I don't know, Hayes replied honestly. But I do know that they've been traveling for a very long time. Millions of years, possibly longer, they've been wandering from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything they find. The implications were staggering. If the Devourers were refugees, fleeing from some even greater threat, then the universe was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. But that was a problem for another day. Admiral, called Lieutenant Jackson from the communication station, we're receiving a quantum burst transmission, the same type that brought us the original distress call. Chen hurried to the communication console. From where? That's just it, Admiral. It's not coming from anywhere specific, it's broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously, reaching every corner of the galaxy at once. Chen realized what had happened. The Devourer's biotechnology included the quantum communication system that had sent the original message. When the creatures died, their technology had somehow become active, creating a galaxy-wide broadcast system. Put it through, Chen ordered. But before the message could be transmitted, she realized something important. This wasn't just an opportunity to communicate across the galaxy. It was a chance to send a message that would be heard by every intelligent species in known space. Belay that order, Chen said. I want to record a message first. She moved to the center of the command center, where the holocameras could capture her image. Behind her, the surviving human ships continued their patrol of the Kepler 442 system. In the distance, the Thylorian survivors worked to rebuild their civilization. Chen took a deep breath and began to speak. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet, speaking to all civilizations across the galaxy. 3 weeks ago, we received a distress call from the Thylorian people of the Kepler 442 system. They were under attack by creatures known as Devourers, beings that consume entire worlds and erase civilizations from existence. She paused, choosing her words carefully. This message would be heard by species across the galaxy, some friendly, some hostile, some unknown. The Thylorians' call for help reached Earth across 1,200 light-years in an instant, using technology we still don't understand. That message asked for help from anyone who could hear it. We heard it. We came. Chen's voice grew harder, taking on the tone of someone delivering a warning. To the Devourers, wherever you are in the galaxy, your hunting days are over. You fed on the innocent, consumed the helpless, and thought nothing could stop you. You were wrong. We are humanity, And we don't tolerate bullies. We destroyed your forces in the Kepler 442 system, and we'll destroy any others we find. Keep running. Keep hiding! Because now we're hunting you." She looked directly into the camera, her eyes filled with cold determination. To every civilization listening to this broadcast, Earth stands ready to answer any call for help. We don't care if you're human or alien, if you worship the same gods we do, or if you've never heard of us before. If someone threatens innocent people and you call for help, we will come. We will bring the finest ships our species can build, crewed by people who have sworn to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Chen's expression softened slightly as she thought of the Thylorian survivors working to rebuild their lives. But we also want you to know that we're not looking for an empire or tribute or worship. We just want to live in a galaxy where children can grow up without fear, where artists can create beauty, where explorers can reach for the stars without worrying about monsters in the dark. She straightened her uniform one final time. This is our promise to the galaxy. Earth ships will come when you call. Our weapons will defend your homes. Our people will stand between you and anything that threatens you. We ask nothing in return except the chance to know that the universe is a little safer because we exist. Chen nodded to Lieutenant Jackson, who began transmitting the message across the galaxy using the captured Devourer technology. The quantum burst would reach every star system, every space station, every ship in known space within hours. As the transmission ended, first speaker Zenthka approached Chen. The alien leader had been listening from the observation deck, along with representatives from the other surviving Thylorians. "Admiral Chen," Zenthka said, "your message will be heard by trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. Many of them will be grateful, but others may see Earth as a threat. You may have just made enemies of some very powerful civilizations." Chen nodded. She had considered that possibility. There were species in the galaxy who preferred chaos, who profited from the suffering of others. They would not welcome the idea of humans acting as protectors of the innocent. "I know," Chen replied, "but some things are more important than making enemies. Someone has to stand up to the monsters. Someone has to answer when innocent people call for help." Over the following days, responses to Chen's message began arriving from across the galaxy. Most were messages of gratitude and support. Peaceful civilizations that had lived in fear of pirates and predators suddenly had hope. Colonies on the frontier knew that help might come if they needed it, but other messages were less friendly. The hegemony of Vask, a militaristic empire that had spent centuries conquering weaker species, sent a formal protest. The Free Traders Consortium, who made their profits from selling weapons to anyone with money, declared that human interference would not be tolerated in their territory. Admiral Chen read each message carefully, but they didn't change her mind. Earth would keep its promise regardless of who disapproved. The most surprising response came from an unexpected source. The Galactic Council, the loose alliance of species that tried to maintain peace between civilizations. They had been powerless to help the Thylorians when the Devourers attacked, but now they sent an official invitation for Earth to join their organization. "They want us at the negotiating table," Chen explained to her senior officers during their final briefing before returning to Earth. "They're hoping that if we're part of their system, they can control what we do." Commander Kim, who had taken over as senior captain after Volkov's sacrifice, smiled grimly. "Are we going to join them?" "That's not my decision to make," Chen replied. "That's up to Earth's government. But I suspect the politicians will want to talk to these people, if only to make sure they understand our position." Captain Park nodded, "Which is that we'll help anyone who asks, regardless of what any council says about it." Exactly. As the human fleet prepared to depart the Kepler 442 system, the Thylorian survivors gathered to see them off. Thousands of small ships formed an honor guard around the two remaining Earth vessels. Their hull lights flashed in complex patterns, creating a light show that could be seen from orbit. First speaker. Zenthka's final message was brief but heartfelt. "People of Earth, you have given us more than our lives. You have given us back our future. When our children ask who saved them from the darkness, we will tell them about the humans who traveled across the galaxy because strangers called for help. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, the same as the trip out. But everything had changed. News of the battle had reached Earth through normal communication channels, and the entire planet was following the story. Captain Volkov had become a hero, her sacrifice inspiring a new generation of young people to join Earth's military. More importantly, construction had already begun on new warships. The victory at Kepler 442 had proven that the Devourers could be defeated, but it had also shown that Earth needed more ships, better weapons, and larger crews if they were going to keep their promise to the galaxy. When Admiral Chen's fleet finally arrived at Earth, they found the orbital defense stations had been expanded and reinforced. New shipyards were under construction, and the first hulls of the next generation of Earth's warships were already taking shape. President Martinez met Chen personally when she returned to the command station. "Admiral, the entire planet is proud of what you accomplished out there. You've made Earth the most respected civilization in the galaxy." Chen looked out at the stars beyond Earth's atmosphere.